Everyone thinks Jenard lost the game by the end of episode 10. He looks cornered, quieter than usual, almost finished. But that's exactly why this moment is dangerous. When Jenard stops talking, stops reacting, and starts watching, that's when real damage is about to happen. Episode 10 isn't the end of Jenard's story. It's the moment he changes how he plays the game. And most people completely missed it. By the end of Season 3, Episode 10. Jenard looks like a man who has lost control of everything. His power feels smaller, his allies feel shaky, and his name doesn't carry the same fear it once did. But this episode is not about what Jenard lost. It's about what he learned. Jenard is no longer fighting to prove himself. He's fighting to survive. And that shift changes everything. Throughout the episode, Jenard doesn't rush into violence the way he used to. Earlier seasons showed him acting on anger, pride, and jealousy. That version of Jenard would explode first and think later. But episode 10 shows a different man. He listens more than he speaks. He watches people closely. He lets others believe they're in control. This isn't weakness, it's adjustment. Jenard understands something important now. Power doesn't always belong to the loudest person in the room. It belongs to the one who knows everyone's secrets. He has seen how fast alliances fall apart in Chicago. He has seen how trust gets people killed. And instead of fighting the chaos, he's learning how to use it. What makes this moment important is that Jenard has nothing left to protect emotionally. That makes him dangerous. He's not trying to be respected anymore. He's trying to be necessary. And when someone becomes necessary, they don't need a crown. They control the board quietly. Episode 10 places Jenard in the shadows on purpose. The writers strip him down so they can rebuild him. He's not done. He's waiting. One of the biggest clues in episode 10 is how quiet Jenard becomes. Silence has always been uncomfortable for him in the past. He used to fill every moment with threats, excuses, or emotion. Now he lets silence sit. That silence is not empty. It's calculated. When Jenard listens, he gathers information, he studies reactions, he notices who feels safe and who feels nervous, while others are focused on surviving the moment. Jenard is thinking about what comes next. This episode shows him absorbing everything: who's loyal, who's scared, and who's lying. Jenard also stops chasing validation. He no longer needs to prove he's smarter or tougher than everyone else. That need used to expose him. Now he lets people underestimate him. And underestimation is one of the strongest weapons in the power universe. This shift means Jenard's next move won't be loud. It won't be a shootout or a public betrayal. It will be quiet, personal, and perfectly timed. He's learning that real control comes from patience, from letting others make mistakes first. Jenard's next move won't be about taking over territory right away. It will be about positioning himself where no one can remove him easily. He understands that brute force creates enemies fast. Information creates leverage that lasts longer. He is likely setting himself up as a connector, someone who knows just enough about everyone to stay useful. This allows him to survive without being seen as the main threat, while others fight. For control, Jenard is preparing to benefit from the fallout. What's important is that Jenard doesn't need to win today. He just needs to outlast everyone else. And episode 10 shows he finally understands that survival is the real victory. This version of Jenard doesn't rush. He waits for cracks to form. He waits for trust to break. And when it does, he'll be standing in the right place to step forward. Jenard is no longer ruled by emotion. That alone makes him more dangerous than he's ever been. He has learned from every loss, every betrayal, and every mistake. Episode 10 isn't showing us a defeated man. It's showing us a rebuilt one. The most dangerous people in power are not the strongest. They're the ones who adapt. And Jenard has finally adapted. He's no longer playing to win attention. He's playing to control outcomes. This is why his next move will catch everyone off guard, because they're still judging him based on who he used to be. But episode 10 makes one thing clear: Jenard has changed, and the game is about to change with him. Episode 10 shows a version of Jenard we haven't seen before, and the biggest sign of that change is his silence. This is not the silence of defeat or fear. It's the silence of someone who finally understands how the game really works. In earlier seasons, Jenard talked too much. He reacted too fast. He let his emotions control his decisions, and every time he did, it cost him power, respect, or loyalty. In this episode, that pattern breaks. Jenard no longer feels the need to explain himself. He doesn't argue to prove a point. He doesn't rush to threaten anyone. Instead, he listens. And listening is something the old Jenard never had the patience for. This silence allows him to see what others miss. He watches how people move, how they hesitate, how their tone changes when certain names are mentioned. While others are busy fighting for control, Jenard is collecting information. What makes this moment important is that Jenard has finally accepted reality. He understands he is not the strongest man in the room anymore. He is not the one everyone fears, but instead of fighting that truth, he adjusts to it. That's growth. That's survival. Episode 10 makes it clear that Jenard has stopped trying to dominate through force and started learning how to dominate through awareness. This silence also protects him. When you talk less, people reveal more. They assume you don't know anything. They assume you're out of the loop. Jenard lets them believe that. He lets people underestimate him because he knows underestimation creates opportunity. The more invisible he becomes, the more freedom he has to move without being targeted. Another key detail is how Jenard reacts emotionally in episode 10. In the past, disappointment or betrayal would push him into reckless decisions. Here, he absorbs it. He processes it. He doesn't explode. That tells us he's no longer driven by ego. He's driven by calculation. He's thinking about outcomes instead of feelings. Jenard's silence is also a sign that he's done seeking approval. Earlier, he wanted respect from Diamond, from the streets, from everyone. That need made him predictable. Now, he doesn't care who understands him. He only cares about staying alive and staying relevant. That mindset is far more dangerous than pride. Episode 10 uses this quiet version of Jenard to show us something important. He's learning from the mistakes of others. He has watched strong men fall because they were too loud, too confident, too visible. He has seen how power attracts enemies. Silence, on the other hand, allows him to move without pressure. This transformation doesn't mean Jenard has become weak. It means he has become patient, and patience in the power universe is often more deadly than violence. When Jenard finally makes his next move, it won't come from anger. It will come from timing. By the end of this episode, Jenard understands something that took him too long to learn. You don't have to be in charge to control the situation. Sometimes, the person saying the least is the one shaping everything. Behind the scenes, this silence is not the end of Jenard's power. It's the foundation of a smarter, colder, and far more dangerous version of him. By the end of episode 10, Jenard is no longer chasing the top spot the way he once did. That alone tells us his next move will be different from anything he's tried before. In earlier seasons, Jenard believed power meant control over territory, soldiers, and money. Whoever had the most muscle won. That thinking nearly destroyed him. Episode 10 shows that Jenard has finally learned that raw power makes you a target, but position makes you untouchable. Jenard's next move is not going to be loud or fast. It won't start with violence. It will start with placement. He is putting himself in spaces where information flows, where decisions are made, and where people feel safe talking. When people feel safe, they talk too much. Jenard understands this now. He doesn't need to be the boss. He just needs to be close to the boss. What makes this strategy smart is that it keeps Jenard alive. The moment you declare yourself a leader, enemies line up. But when you become useful instead of powerful, people protect you. Episode 10 subtly shows Jenard moving toward that role. He positions himself as someone who knows things, someone who can connect people, someone who can solve problems quietly. Jenard is also learning to let others take the heat. While bigger names fight for control, he stays just outside the spotlight. This allows him to study their weaknesses. He notices who overplays their hand, who trusts the wrong people, and who is running on fear instead of logic. Every mistake they make becomes something Jenard can use later. Another important part of Jenard's next move is patience. He is no longer trying to fix everything at once. He understands that the streets are unstable and instability creates openings. Instead of forcing a win, he waits for situations to collapse on their own. When they do, he steps in at the right moment. Jenard's position also gives him flexibility. If one alliance fails, he can slide into another. If one side loses power, he can shift without being blamed. This makes him hard to pin down. No one sees him as the main threat, which is exactly how he wants it. What episode 10 really sets up is Jenard becoming a quiet influencer instead of a visible ruler. He doesn't need people to fear him anymore. He needs them to depend on him. Dependence is stronger than fear because it lasts longer once people rely on you. Jenard also understands that Tommy and others like him thrive in chaos, but chaos burns people out. Jenard is planning for what comes after the chaos, when everyone is tired, injured, or exposed. He will still be standing, still connected, still useful. This next move isn't about winning a war. It's about surviving long enough to shape the outcome. Episode 10 makes it clear that Jenard has stopped thinking like a soldier and started thinking like a survivor. And survivors in power don't just last. They eventually rise. Jenard's strength now comes from restraint, from knowing when not to act, from knowing that the best move sometimes is to let others destroy themselves. That mindset makes him unpredictable. And in a world where everyone thinks they understand him, unpredictability is power. This is why Jenard's next move is so dangerous. It won't look like a move at all. By the time anyone realizes what he's done, he'll already be exactly where he needs to be. Episode 10 hides one of its most important moments in plain sight, and most viewers didn't notice it because nothing loud or dramatic happens around it. There's no gunshot, no argument, no sudden betrayal. Instead, the clue comes through a small detail that only matters if you understand how the Power Universe tells its story. This detail is not about action. It's about intention. The clue is in how Jenard reacts when certain information is revealed around him. He doesn't question it. He doesn't challenge it. He doesn't even seem surprised. That reaction is important because it tells us he already knew more than he let on. In Power, when a character doesn't react, it usually means they were prepared. And preparation means planning. Jenard's calm response suggests that he has already connected dots long before episode 10, while other characters are still processing what's happening. Jenard has already moved past shock and into acceptance. That tells us his mind is ahead of the timeline we're watching. He's not living in the moment. He's living a few steps ahead. Another part of this clue is where Jenard places himself during key conversations. He's present, but never central. He stays close enough to hear everything but far enough to avoid attention. This positioning is not accidental. It shows that Jenard wants access without responsibility. He wants knowledge without blame. That balance is powerful. The way Jenard watches others speak is also part of the clue. He studies faces, pauses, and tone. He notices who hesitates and who speaks too confidently. These are signs he's reading the room instead of reacting to it. This tells us he's not emotionally involved in the moment. He's observing it like a test. Episode 10 also includes moments where Jenard allows others to believe something that may not be fully true. He doesn't correct them. He lets assumptions stand. In Power, letting someone believe a lie can be more powerful than telling the truth. That lie shapes their future choices, and those choices can be controlled. This clue matters because it changes how we should view Jenard's role moving forward. He's not behind. He's not lost. He's waiting. The writers want us to think he's falling off, but this quiet setup suggests the opposite. He's being positioned as someone who knows more than he shows. What makes this even more important is how this clue connects to earlier episodes. Jenard has been ignored, doubted, and underestimated all season, episode 10 uses that to its advantage. The more invisible he becomes, the more space he has to plan. This clue confirms that invisibility is part of the strategy. Jenard's lack of reaction also protects him. When people don't know what you're thinking, they can't plan against you. His calm face becomes a mask. Behind it, he's measuring risk, reward, and timing. This clue also hints that Jenard's next move is already in motion. He doesn't need to rush because the setup is complete. Everyone else is playing checkers in the open. Jenard is playing chess quietly. Episode 10 doesn't explain this clue because it's not meant to be obvious. It's meant to be discovered later, when his actions finally make sense. That's when viewers will look back and realize the warning. Signs were always there. This small detail changes everything. It tells us Jenard is no longer reacting to the story. He's shaping it. And the most dangerous players in power are always the ones you don't notice until it's too late. The small clue hidden in episode 10 doesn't just explain Jenard's personal strategy. It connects him directly to the larger war that's quietly forming in Chicago. While most characters are focused on their own survival, Jenard is thinking about the full picture. He understands that this isn't just about one crew or one enemy. It's about who will still matter when the dust finally settles. What the missed clue really shows is that Jenard already sees the next phase coming. He knows alliances are about to break. And new ones will form out of necessity, not loyalty. That understanding places him in a unique position. He doesn't tie himself emotionally to one side. He keeps himself flexible, ready to move wherever the balance shifts. Jenard also understands something others don't. Wars aren't won by strength alone, they're won by timing. By letting others clash first, by stepping in when everyone else is exposed. Episode 10 quietly places Jenard outside the early battles so he can survive long enough to influence the endgame. The clue suggests that Jenard has information that connects multiple players, not just one. That means he can act as a bridge or a breaker between factions. He can bring people together or push them apart without ever pulling a trigger. That kind of influence is rare. And it's exactly what fuels large-scale conflict. Another important layer is how Jenard views Tommy and others like him. He sees them as forces of chaos, useful, powerful, but unstable. Instead of confronting that chaos head-on, Jenard plans to use it. Let Tommy shake the city. Let others respond with fear or aggression. Jenard stays steady, waiting for the right moment to step in. This also explains why Jenard doesn't rush into revenge or big moves. Revenge locks you into one direction. Strategy keeps options open. The missed clue confirms that Jenard is choosing strategy over emotion. That choice places him closer to the center of the war than anyone realizes. Jenard's role in the bigger war isn't about being the face of it. It's about being the pivot. The person whose decision quietly shifts the balance. When he finally acts, it will feel sudden to everyone else, but it won't be sudden to him. He's been preparing for it all along. Episode 10 also hints that Jenard understands how power cycles work. Leaders rise, draw attention, and fall. The ones who last are the ones who avoid the spotlight until the right moment. The missed clue confirms that Jenard is aiming for longevity, not glory. This connection to the larger war makes Jenard more dangerous than any single enemy. He doesn't need an army, he needs access. He needs knowledge, and episode 10 shows that he already has both. What makes this setup strong is that it's quiet. There's no announcement of war, no dramatic speech, just small choices that point to a much bigger conflict coming. Jenard is already positioning himself inside that conflict without exposing himself. By the time the bigger war fully explodes, Jenard won't be choosing sides, he'll be choosing outcomes. And that's why this missed clue matters so much. It reveals that Jenard isn't just reacting to the story anymore. He's becoming one of the people shaping how it ends. By the end of episode 10, it becomes clear that Jenard is no longer the same man we met in earlier seasons. He isn't loud, reckless, or desperate for attention anymore. That change alone makes him more dangerous than anyone realizes. The biggest mistake other characters are making right now is judging Jenard based on his past. They still see the impulsive version of him, not the one standing quietly in front of them now. This new Jenard understands something that took him too long to learn. Power doesn't always belong to the person in charge. It belongs to the person who knows when to move and when to stay still. Episode 10 shows that Jenard has mastered restraint. He doesn't rush decisions. He doesn't react emotionally. He allows situations to play out while he studies the outcome. That level of control makes him unpredictable. Jenard is also dangerous because he has nothing left to prove. In the past, his actions were driven by pride, jealousy, and the need to be seen as important. Now, those emotions are gone. When a character stops caring about recognition, they become harder to manipulate. No one can bait him into a mistake anymore. That emotional freedom gives Jenard clarity. Another reason Jenard is more dangerous now is because he understands people better. Episode 10 shows him reading the room instead of controlling it. He knows who feels secure and who feels exposed. He knows who is lying to survive and who believes their own lies. That awareness allows him to predict moves before they happen. And when you can predict someone, you can control how they fall. Jenard's danger also comes from his patience. While others are focused on short-term wins, he's thinking long-term. Survival. He's willing to let others take risks, lose people, and expose themselves. Every loss around him creates opportunity. He doesn't need to force his way forward. He lets the path clear itself. This version of Jenard also understands that violence is not always the answer. Violence brings attention. Attention brings pressure. Pressure brings enemies. By staying quiet, Jenard avoids becoming the main target. That allows him to operate in spaces where others can't. He moves through conversations, not confrontations. Episode 10 makes it clear that Jenard is no longer reacting to chaos. He's waiting for the right